Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Gainsight's Head of Evangelism, Omer Rabin.
Thank you. Good morning again, Pulse 2017. I'm going to ask you a question, and please know that it's not an emergency, but is there any doctor in the house? Any doctor in the house? A PhD in data science does not count, by the way. The reason I'm asking it is because when you look at the last year, in many ways, that has been the year of healthcare in customer success. A lot of different verticals really embraced customer success, but if you look at that, healthcare has been the fastest growing one. We all know, and we covered that customer success is about bringing together people and organizations and align them around basically customer outcomes. But when you take that to the healthcare industry, it's not just about saving business, it's really about improving and maybe even saving lives. When you think about it specifically in healthcare, we actually embraced a lot of the terminology from healthcare a long time ago in customer success. We have customer health score. We call our conference Pulse. But when you look at those teams in healthcare companies, their mission is very interesting and just a little bit different. They're aligning the business outcomes of the businesses with the end patient outcomes and patient experience, which is a very, very interesting mission. One of the most innovative companies doing exactly that is a company named Illumina, and we're very proud to be partnering with them recently and to welcome them into the customer success family. They're tackling and using customer success to tackle two very small issues, world hunger and cancer. Sounds easy. Let's see a little bit how exactly they're doing this.
I remember the first time we were able to sequence a whole human genome in a single day. You can suddenly see what could be possible.
When I first found out that she had cancer, I felt like I was drowning. I wish that it was me, not her.
There were many sleepless nights. It was technology that each piece of it was cutting edge. We knew that we were going to make a difference for our children and the world.
15 years ago, seeing my kids grow up wasn't a reality. They found a perfect match the same day. And to think that I'm carrying somebody else's heart and that I'm not only responsible for my own legacy, but theirs as well.
I thought it was never going to be possible. Every kick reminds me that it's real. You can feel this being inside of you, and so excited to meet her for the first time.
Little girl.
I never dreamt that in my lifetime that we would have the answers where they will know the individual who's at risk of heart disease and all sorts of chronic illnesses because of this tool that was in my hands.
We used to race against the clock. But now we catch it early and save communities.
I remember not being able to do what all the other kids could do. And it was just hard to breathe. My dad said my uncle died from it when he was 10. But I feel lucky. I feel like I can fly.
When I saw that first crop, it was unimaginable how many farmers we could help, even in the most devastating and challenging climates. And it's just the beginning to a world that had an adequate food supply.
It was like coming up for air when I remember how different cancer treatment is today. that makes me cry. You can give life to somebody that has so much to offer. And when you can see that, you feel joy in your heart.
The DNA molecule is the software program of life. We certainly couldn't have predicted the breakthroughs, the ways that can positively impact human health. I can't imagine anything more powerful than that.
Pretty inspiring, huh? So, Pauls, please help me welcome the Vice President of Customer Solutions at Illumina, Mr. John Liebig.
Hello, welcome. Good morning. How's everybody doing this morning? Good? All right. Just a show of hands, before this meeting, how many of you have never heard of Illumina? All right. Well, it's a pleasure and an honor to be here to represent that company and to share our story and what customer success means to us. I'd like to start out by talking about the mission of the company: to improve human health by unlocking the power of the genome. And that mission has a broad range of implications, which not only helps each one of us, but it's really driven and aimed at a happier, healthier life for all of us. Customer success has a profound meaning because not only are our customers trying to tackle some of the world's most challenging issues, but in driving our success, it has a profound benefit, potential benefit for the world in general. So I'm aware that many of you may not be genomics experts, so allow me to provide kind of a corollary to software, which many of you are very aware of, I'm sure. So just like in software, where the executable runs in ones and zeros, your code, your genomic code, runs in A, T, C, and G. And your genome codes the protein, the messages across all of your cellular function to define who you are. In fact, diving a little bit deeper, it's been defined that your genome is composed of 3.2 billion letters. 3.2. And recently, an article published in Wired suggested that all of Google, their entire enterprise, is built upon 2 billion lines of code. So that should provide you with some context that even you are you're more complex than all of Google, which should give you some idea about how the complexity of how diseases manifest and present. So let's stick with this software corollary for a little bit. Just like in software where there's bugs, you find an issue, you reproduce it, you compile, you release that patch. We have genetic bugs inside of us as well. Some are easy. We can detect them by a deletion or something that's missing. Others are more complicated. And when those bugs get complicated in your domain, that software release that's out, they haven't figured it out. You lean on these gurus who come in, they come out of the closet, whoever they are, and then they work for days, and everybody's waiting, and they finally find that bug, and they fix it, and they release it. Well, cancer is the bug of all bugs. Consider that all of the gurus, thousands, tens of thousands of scientists for decades have been trying to decode this one. It's not reproducible, it's intermittent, there's no known root cause, it moves operating systems, moving from one organ to another. It's like a hack, a virus, malware, and a bug all at one time, changing all of the time. But there's hope. And that's what the genomic revolution can bring, and what Illumina, working with our customers, are focusing on. So that's great, John. You've kind of shared this software thing. What's it mean? What's it really mean, and where are we headed? Well, think of it as this. By sequencing your genome, we can now provide a new tool that was unimaginable a few decades ago with such precision that we can basically do a code review of you. We can look for deletions, variants, anomalies, and we can better understand what's driving those so we can better care for you. In terms of that software analogy, we can find bugs before you're released, and there's a lot of reproductive health opportunities there. Once we do know your code and all that precision, we can fix you fast after you've been released. And ultimately, we can be much more prescriptive and targeted to bring forth therapies that work for you, that don't bring you down, that minimize your side effects and improve the overall quality of your life. That's what the promise of genomics brings. How did we get here? And that's a pretty amazing story in and of itself. Back in the early 80s, when I was in high school actually, some people had an idea. And that idea was to sequence the first human genome. It took a little while, but fate would have it that in 1990, I guess this set is from 1990, they launched that project. And through the next 13 years, it took a lot of effort, and it cost around $3 billion. They did it. They accomplished it in 2003. And since that time, Illumina has done something amazing. They've taken that technology and moved it, as you can see in the graphic, from $3 billion to under $1,000. And they're able to sequence your genome in about a day. That has enabled an entire new ecosystem, which brings us to the topic of customer success. Because when the stakes are improving the planet, solving cancer and world hunger, our customers' success is paramount. It supersedes even our company's success. And it drives our organization to collaborate with our customers in ways that we hope will accelerate some of these findings. So you can see across the range of these applications that it's opened up. And now you can see some of the customers and clients we work with. Some you may be familiar with, 23andMe here in the Bay Area and Ancestry.com. What we're experiencing are millions and millions of people discovering more about themselves, curious about taking a more active ownership in their own health. Where are they from? Who are they? What's their genetic disposition? And trying to move it from not so much of a genetic horoscope to a genetic stethoscope of precision on how we can operate. And that's really the precision medicine initiatives you've heard about in various geographies or personalized medicine. Understanding your genetic code in ways that enable us to more actively manage your health. And another kind of fun fact that the team at Ancestry.com mentioned that in a group of 200 people, there's probably around a couple of third cousins in that room. And in this room, which appears much larger than 200, who knows, if you're walking around the hallways, maybe there's a lost sibling out there, so if someone looks just like you, it could be. But there's other companies that are doing some amazing work like Zoetis, and they're looking at how we can more sustainably grow and nurture a growing planet. And hunger is definitely something that is tragic that's happening in our world today. The United Nations Food and Agricultural Organization estimates about 805 million people do not have enough food, and they're under pressure. And to kind of forward project to 2050, where the current population at 7.5 or so billion will likely grow to around 10. We need to act now, and we need to act with urgency. The other aspect of hunger, which we need to contemplate, and I know it's not good news, but we need to all digest this, is the fact that many of them are children. In fact, half of the children that will pass this year can be directly attributed to hunger. And that's where our customer success comes into play with great urgency. So we're partnering with scientists and researchers and companies like Zoetis to find ways to better feed our growing population. And this is a picture of some rice growing in salinated waters off the coast of the Philippines. And what's beautiful about this picture is that this rice is able to grow and handle those elevated salt levels and produce wonderful, organic, tasty rice, expanding the footprint of our limited real estate in this world to grow food to meet that growing demand. And we're working with researchers in Africa and across the world to grow better strains in drought-resistant and more environmentally challenged areas that have been brought on by climate change. And those are the customers that we're hoping to serve and help find more answers. I'd now like to change tune a little bit and tell more of a personal story, Marin's story. As a 39-year-old woman who was expecting the birth of her child, she underwent a blood test that Illumina offers. It's a non-invasive blood test. And if you're over the age of 35, the standard of care in the United States is that you should have an amniocentesis, which for those who may not know what that is, it's a kind of an invasive procedure where a needle is placed into the mother's womb, and they extract amniotic fluid, and they assess the child's health. My wife actually went through 3 of those, and it's kind of scary. And sometimes it doesn't work out. Around 3% of the time there can be complications, sometimes even the loss of the child. Well, for Marin, she sought this more non-invasive blood test, and the results came back and they were mixed. The good news here is you can see that we have a healthy baby Owen. So the baby's health was okay, but what was anomalous and under further scrutiny was identified is that Marin had cancer detected in that blood test. Turns out that tumors circulate their DNA in mom's bloodstream. We were able to pick that up. The other aspect of this story is that Marin didn't have any symptoms. So as she was carrying her child, her physician directed her to induce birth early at 32 weeks and go directly into cancer therapy. It turned out that this rare form of cancer had actually spread to her lungs and her lymph nodes, and she was able to get into treatment sooner. As we stand here today, she's doing better. Her tumors are actually shrinking, which is good news, and we wish nothing but the best for her. But the reality is that Marin is not some distant story that's interesting or moderately interesting. Fact is that each one of us need to face down the fact that at some point in our lives, if we live long enough, and research suggests around 40% of us are going to have to stare down a cancer diagnosis individually. And if we don't have to do it personally, chances are very likely there's going to be someone around us. That's the bad news. But the good news is that this technology is going to enable some breakthroughs. It has the promise to really change the way we handle those diagnoses today. And so we've spun off some companies. One of them is Grail, located here in the Bay Area, led by a gentleman named Jeff Huber, who was a former senior executive at Google. And he lost his wife to cancer, and he's dedicated his mission to help solve that. And what genomic sequencing can provide is a means, as you can read in the mission, to screen out and identify cancer before symptoms present. And I don't want to scare you guys or anything, but if you think about it, you don't have any symptoms in this room, it could be happening to one of us. But wouldn't it be great, as part of a routine physical, you have a test that can give you the leg up on that? Because what we know about cancer is that the sooner you can detect it, the probability of success goes way up, and you can cure it, and you can preserve a high quality of life at a much lower cost. And that's what we're chasing with Grail. There's one other condition that I'd like to bring to your attention, which doesn't really get talked about a lot. Inside Illumina, we refer to this as a rugged condition, which is a rare, undiagnosed genetic disorder. And as you can see from the graphic here, 250 million people are affected. And if you can kind of think about that a little bit, there is nothing more joyous than the birth of a child. And for those in the room that have experienced that, words really don't give it justice. It's a magical event. But there are many, many people who have their first child or a child, and things are going well, and then all of a sudden the child starts to struggle, goes through developmental challenges, and goes on a medical odyssey. And around, I think it's just under 5% of the population is affected by this. Imagine if that happened to you. The stress, the anxiety, what's wrong with my child? You go to a healthcare provider, we don't know. And fate would have it that I was flying up here from San Diego yesterday. There was a gentleman sitting next to me, and we struck up a conversation. And he actually shared with me that he was experiencing this with their 3-year-old. And they were looking at all sorts of possibilities, that she had gone to Stanford. He had to sell their 2-story home and downsize to pay for it because the costs are exuberant. And we believe we can affect a different answer here as well. So customer success. There's some good news here, ladies and gentlemen. When you factor that not only some of our key clients, but all of our clients are really looking at novel ways to improve human health, we're really looking for customer success to be an accelerator through this tunnel. And admittedly, it's early days for us, and we're so happy to be here to really learn from all of you and how we can better partner with our customers to accelerate through this tunnel. And at the risk of sharing some of these big topics, I really want to leave you with some really positive things, because we see a bright light at the end of this tunnel. And we're going to really look to customer success to help us use that as a vehicle to get through that even faster. And let me share with you what I mean by that and what we believe is very possible in the next decade. We believe, by partnering with our customers closely, like UCSF and others, that it is completely conceivable that we can bend the mortality curve of cancer. We can turn that into a managed disease, as opposed to the near death sentence it is in many instances today. And we can do that by detecting it earlier and then taking more prescriptive measures to treat it. We also believe, through the application of sequencing, that we can help these parents who struggle with children with rare disorders, identify them, prevent them altogether, and identify them much better so they don't go on this medical odyssey, which sometimes leads to a dark path where the treatment's not effective. And we also believe that for the first time in centuries, with the advent of this technology and partnering with our customers, that we can find ways to grow productive plants and animals at a lower footprint to feed the growing population and change the effects of hunger. And in so doing, in aggregate, all three of these and other disease states, we believe that we can greatly reduce the burden of healthcare that's bringing down economies around the world in countless households, like the gentleman I met on the plane flying up here, trying to meet those exuberant costs of healthcare. So, our fight is our mission against cancer, diseases of all type, and hunger. And we're very excited to be here today to learn from all of you and to ask you to consider sharing your ideas and your thoughts on how we can get there. So thank you for that. And I'd also just like to end on a simple thought. You know, I saw that one of the values that Nick shared was childlike joy. And when I was cleaning up, trying to help my wife over the weekend, I have a 7-year-old, and she had this book laying on her bed. And it's a book called What Do You Do with an Idea? And it's written by Kobe Yamada. And it's a really cool little book. I'd encourage you guys to read it. I want to share it with you. The story is a child has this idea, and she doesn't really know what to do with it. Should she share it with someone else? And through the balance of the book, she does. And she's ridiculed. And she goes away, and then she kind of thinks to herself, you know, that's my idea. They don't know what they're talking about. And she continues to nurture that idea, and eventually it grows, and it releases into the sky. In the very last page in the book, it says, let me make sure I don't screw this up here. It says, and then I realized, what you do with an idea, you change the world. And I'd like to personally thank the members of that Human Genome Project that launched that project in 1990, and those that followed to get that first genome sequenced. I'd also like to thank the amazing team at Illumina and their passion to innovate at an exponential level to provide that possibility that I've shared with you today. But I'd most importantly like to thank our customers who are taking that technology to try to affect a different outcome than what we're seeing today. And that outcome simply is for all of us to enjoy a healthier, happier life for ourselves, our children, and for generations that follow, so they don't have to live in fear of hunger or a cancer diagnosis. Thank you very much.